As far as what literary citizenship means to me, I feel like that is the chance for writers to be a part of literary community, whether it's being a part of a community of writers who write in the same genre that you're writing in, or just part of the literary community as a whole. Writing is such a solitary activity to begin with, so it's always helpful and I think beneficial to have a community of others that you can, turn to for support and encouragement in your writing journey, advice, information, help with resources, and just having that support system there. I feel like there are so many organizations that you can join that can contribute to being a part of the literary community. There's also the opportunity to have a presence, especially on social media nowadays. Authors being present on social media is actually like really important. Having that online persona, having an author platform, that makes up a major part of literary citizenship, I think. Joining, you can join groups on Facebook, you can create your own group on Facebook. You can join um, chapters of organizations. You can form your own writing group in person. So, all of these, I think, are ways that contribute to being a literary citizen in the writing community. And I think that, you know, it's important to foster those relationships with other writers because networking is important. So, you never know what kind of benefit connecting with other writers might have for you later on down the road, but just also getting that support and that feedback for your own writing and offering that to others, offering the chance to give back once you do make it to the point where you want to be as a writer. You can offer your own mentorship to other aspiring writers. All of that, I think, plays into what literary citizenship means to me. As far as how I feel that I can connect with the writing community, I feel like nowadays so much of it is oriented to online presence and social media. There are a lot of platforms that a writer can use to have a more visible presence within the writing community. There's Facebook for starters. There's writing groups on there that you can join. I myself am a part of the National Novel Writing Month chapter for Savannah. I have yet to actually participate in any of the events that they host, but I mean, there's local writing chapters that you can join within your own city or state. There's, online organizations. There are national organizations. We discussed some of those in class as far as like Romance Writers of America, Pen America. A lot of them offer really great benefits to membership such as, legal advice when it comes to negotiating contracts and just the resources that they make available to aspiring writers and people that are just learning the business. So all of these are ways that I feel that I can connect with the writing community. I can I feel like a large part of it is just making myself more available and participating. It's easy to click the join button on something that's online, but if you don't really participate or share, or if you don't comment other people's writing, then you're not really gaining a whole lot from being a part of it. You have to interact with people in order to actually get something out of it. So as far as that, I feel like that's one way that I could connect more with the writing community and just, looking into various um, organizations that are available and being open to more, I guess, writing organizations that maybe I hadn't previously considered being a part of because you never know how it might benefit you later on down the road or what you might learn from the people that you're working with or interacting with. So I think just being open and being interactive are the main ways that I will connect with the writing community when I am able to actually become a part of one that I feel is a good fit for me. As far as how I feel I will leverage connections to further my writing career, as I mentioned earlier, networking is an important part of being a writer. You never know what kind of people in the business you might meet or come across, when you're attending conferences, when you're workshopping, when you're just attending maybe monthly writing sessions with other writers to offer critique and feedback on each other's work. So I feel like all these are ways that, you can, or I personally would use to connect with others who are possibly more knowledgeable, who have been in the business longer, who can offer useful pointers about certain aspects of the business as far as how to go about contacting agents, how to market myself. I feel like just being more interactive within the writing community will help me to further my career because the more that you interact with others and you gain information and insight, the more likely you'll be able to use those connections to, you know, find ways to promote your writing and get it to the people who might possibly be able to offer it to publishers who then might want to, publish your work and submit it to the world as a whole. Reading preferences. I feel like those are very important. Any aspiring writer always says that they start out being a reader first. I feel like my reading preferences have influenced me so much as far as wanting to even pick up my pen in the first place. When I was younger, I read books that were appropriate to my age. Nancy Drew, Goosebumps, Fear Street, Sweet Valley High, a lot of the series that a lot of kids that are in between, like, middle school and high school read. Babysitter's Club. They're books where you read about the protagonist, you grow to know them, you either like them or you don't, but you're interested to see what happens to them. But then, as you get older, your reading preferences mature. You get introduced to what are considered the classics, which I have a very fond appreciation for. I absolutely love the novels of Jane Austen and the Bronte sisters, particularly Charlotte and Anne and Emily. I guess I could say all three of them. Wuthering Heights is probably my favorite, but I feel like the classics, they offer a different perspective because so much of what's published today, it seems like a lot of it is recycled ideas. Everybody's trying to emulate the last big thing because it was popular and people enjoyed reading it and it was marketable. So then you get a lot of reproductions of the same story, only with a different setting or different characters. So that's one pitfall I feel that I have to think about pursuing the genre that I want to write in, which is young adult fiction. But I feel like the classics, reading them, they offer originality. A lot of the stories, they're totally different from anything you would read today. I feel like that's influenced my writing as far as like wanting to write a story that's different and original and write the story that I want to write rather than what I think will sell. But, the classics, while they are wonderful and insightful to read, they aren't always fun. They can be tedious. There are a lot of contemporary writers that I enjoy, such as Rainbow Rowell, Fangirl, Eleanor and Park, or a couple of her young adult fiction novels that I've reread many times that I enjoy. I look to her writing to gain insight and pointers on how to form my own novel, looking at the format, how she begins it, how it's put together. J.K. Rowling, of course, the Harry Potter series. That's another one that's deeply affected me and shown me that, reading and writing can be fun, to be just like serious, and you can still get your point across in a way that is fun and enjoyable and still have a deeper meaning to it. So that's how I feel like my reading preferences have influenced me for the most part. They're very varied, and I hope that comes across in my writing and the stories that I want to tell. Um, as far as the genres that I want to write in, or that I've previously written in, my first choice when I saw this program was definitely young adult fiction because I am a huge young adult fiction fan, as you can see in the background. I have a lot of young adult fiction titles in my bookshelf up here. I feel like these are the books that influenced me the most during my own adolescence. The books that I read, they were geared towards young adults, and while they weren't, maybe as sophisticated as some of the other contemporary novels or the classics, I feel like they still made a lasting impression. The characters, what they went through, it was all relatable. So these were a major reason for me wanting to even pick up my pen and want to write in the first place. So young adult fiction is definitely the genre that I choose to want to write in, that I previously written in, even though I have nothing credited as far as publishing credits. I have written a few things that are in the young adult fiction genre. I was working on a young adult novel, a young adult historical novel, in the last program that I completed from SNHU. Um, but I feel like I was trying to be a little too literary. So, as far as like learning what goes into genre writing and specifically the things that need to be present when writing a young adult novel, those are still things that I need to learn. But young adult is definitely my first choice. Romance would be my second because I also feel that is a genre that I can relate to. Who doesn't love stories and happy endings? But definitely young adult because I feel like even though the protagonists are adolescents, a lot of what they deal with in the stories and what they go through is still relatable to you, no matter what your age or background or you know where you're coming from. Is something that you can relate to and you can understand and empathize with, and I think that's important. Um, as far as how I think learning about different genres will influence my writing, as I previously mentioned, with each genre, I think there are certain expectations that readers have that you, as the author, are responsible for presenting in your work. For romance writers, they expect, the readers expect for there to be, you know, relationship as the central focus of the story. A romantic relationship between a man and a woman, or it could be a man and a man or a woman and a woman, just a romantic relationship as the focus. They expect, excuse me, there to be emotional conflict. They expect for there to be happy ending, and a young adult novel, they expect for there to be teenagers and teenage issues that are dealt with, and probably, all the things that go along with adolescent angst and first love and parental control and rebellion and things of that nature. So I think that when writing a story, you need to know what readers' expectations are. I mean, you can still tell the story that you want to tell, but genre in general, you need to know what your readers' expectations are in the story so that they won't be disappointed. That you make sure that you include those elements in your story so that it fits into that genre. And I think that's also important when it comes to marketing your story. It has to be able to fit to a certain category so that publishers know where to place it when they're promoting your work and they're trying to market it to certain audiences. So learning all about the different genres, the expectations, what's you know expected of you when you're writing that genre and how you need to present it. I think all of that is very important to learn as we progress through the program. Oh gosh, writing habits I would like to develop. I would say most of all, I would like to develop a consistent writing habit. I write haphazardly at best, but that doesn't work because I don't really get a whole lot accomplished. I would like to develop writing habits where I am consistent and I have a set time that I get up to write. I have a certain amount of time allotted to writing, and that's all I do. I don't use any sort of devices that would be distracting, like my phone or social media apps. I just write. I don't have to plan. I don't want to waste time free writing or plotting or planning. When I sit down to write, I want to be able to just work on the story. I want to already know what I'm going to write. And I think a lot of that has to do with being prepared beforehand. So that's another habit I would like to develop, pre planning. um, the work that goes into writing beforehand. I did a little bit of this in the previous program that I was in, and I think it helped a lot because I never really liked to plot before I did that, but I found out it made things so much easier, just having an idea of who the characters were, what they liked, what their goal was, what their function in the story was, how the plot would progress. I made it easier to fill in all the other stuff. Of course, that was also hard at times because, like, you're trying to think of, okay, well, how do I get from this point to the next point in the story? But at least knowing where you're going, that makes it a lot easier. So, as I said, plotting, planning beforehand, and then actually being consistent. And when it's time to writing, I would like to start out with um, having a daily goal of maybe 2,000 words. I'm not going to say daily, but I figure starting out 4 out of the 7 days of the week would be admirable for me. And I feel doable considering my schedule. So that is what I would like to accomplish within the next couple of months. Getting on a set schedule where I write and I know what I'm going to write and I just do it. And I have a set word amount that I reach each day that I'm writing. And not worry about editing as I go, but just getting it down. Allowing myself to write badly if I need to, and not worrying about how awful it is at the time because editing can come later. So those are the habits that I would like to develop, and I'm working on them. It's just coming very slowly at the moment. As far as my plan for establishing these habits, that's going to fall on me to be consistent and to be firm about actually doing it, not just saying that I'm going to get up and write, but actually setting my alarm for earlier. I know it's going to be difficult to leave the warmth of my bed, especially with the winter months coming. But if it's something that I really want to accomplish, and if I want to make progress with my project, then I feel like that's motivation enough to, you know, give up the little bit of sleep that I'll be missing, and I can wrap up in a blanket if it's too cold. But I feel like actually following through and doing it will be the main thing that helps me to establish these habits. I feel like setting my alarm, I usually wake up around 8 in the morning. My daughter has online schooling around 8:30. If I wake up around 4 in the morning, I can get at least 3 hours in writing. I think that's way better than what I'm doing now, which is really a lot less than that because, as I mentioned before, my writing habits are very sporadic. But 3 hours, a lot can be done in 3 hours. A lot of writing can get done. If I do that 4 days out of the week starting out, I can definitely reach a 2,000 word limit. You know, I might even go beyond that. But I feel like actually doing it, making sure that I make myself motivated enough to get up and actually focus on it without distractions, without wasting time doing other things, without, you know, procrastinating, which is my main enemy when it comes to getting any writing done of any kind or any task really. But I feel like it falls on me to do it. So my plan is to just make sure that I'm self aware and accountable for what I want to accomplish, and the progress will be seen in the word count. And if the word count is not adding up, then I'll know that I'm not doing what I need to do to make sure that my habits are becoming habits. So then I might need to go back and see what I need to do to make sure that I am doing what I need to do to reach my word count on the days that I'm supposed to be writing. I feel like these habits, if I can get them established the way I want to, I feel like they will help me be more creative and productive because, of course, the more you write, the more you produce. And I feel like the more you write, the more ideas come to you. I have had periods where I would actually get up early, like I mentioned before, and write. And I noticed I was a lot more productive. I produced a lot more. I had notes of story ideas and how I wanted things to progress and character notes and what each character's goal in the story would be. It was like, but I think reading goes along with that because I was reading a lot more at the time too. So reading and writing are they're both a part of it. So I feel like the more I read at the time, the more I was motivated to get up and write, and maybe that's part of it too. Maybe I need to try to incorporate reading more into my daily routine, but I feel like if I can establish these habits, then I will get into the practice of writing, which will then increase my productivity, which will increase my capacity for coming up with ideas for stories or ideas for the stories that I already have. They might progress in directions that I hadn't even considered. So that's definitely how I feel that these habits, if I can keep them um, going and if I can be consistent with them, will be beneficial to me being more productive and creative overall. Workshopping advantages for writing development. I feel like workshopping has a lot of advantages, especially for aspiring writers, writers who have not yet been published, who might have never had their work critiqued or reviewed. When you're writing, you're the only one reading it. So, of course, you're not really going to be able to pinpoint what might not be working, what might be wrong, what might not, mesh, what might not be consistent in the story. So I feel like workshopping is an opportunity for you to have other people coming to it with a fresh set of eyes, a fresh perspective, who haven't, been rereading it over and over, who haven't been working on it, who don't really know exactly what the direction is that the story is supposed to go. Because as the writer, you have all that mapped out, so you know what you want the story to be. But having somebody read it that doesn't know, they can better tell you if you're on the right track or if maybe you need to rethink certain areas. They can tell you if characters don't seem consistent, if they don't have a clearly defined goal, if they seem flat or one dimensional. They can tell you, just really they can tell you what's wrong with the story, and they can tell you what's right about it, which is always gratifying. So I feel like that's the main advantage to workshopping, having that other perspective on your work where, you know, you can get another opinion about where the story is going. And, as the writer, it's always up to you whether or not you want to choose to use the reviewers' suggestions or not. I mean, I feel like that's the whole point of workshopping. At least they should be considered, because they only have your best interest at heart for critiquing your work. So it's always worth considering the advice and the feedback that you receive, but you're not obligated to use it. But I feel like that's the main advantage, having that other perspective on your work that you necessarily wouldn't get if you're the only person reading it and, you know, reviewing, which you can't really review your own work accurately. So, as far as what I can learn from workshopping other writers' work, I feel like that kind of ties into what I was saying before. You see things in another person's work it that might not be, you know, meshing well with the story. It makes you kind of think to look at your own work and look at those same issues and see if you're having the same problems. You can offer feedback as a writer. It also gives you the opportunity to, I think, be exposed to maybe other types of stories that you necessarily might not read or have been interested in, but you might discover that you really enjoy a new type of genre like mystery or science fiction, you know. So it exposes you to different types of writing, but it also makes you aware of perhaps maybe things in your own writing that you might want to go back and look at more closely and retweak or rewrite, when you're reviewing somebody else's work. It's also a chance to learn about other people's processes. I think that you can learn a lot from workshopping other people's writing. You can learn how they feel a story is put together, how they go about writing it, how they go about adding, tone and atmosphere, setting, characters, how their whole plotting process works, whether they write, everything out or they just write as they go. You can learn a lot and gain a lot of insight for your own writing by reading other people's work and seeing how they do it as well. So I think those are definitely important takeaways from being a participant in a workshop for writers. Um, as far as the part that I foresee workshopping playing in my own professional writing career, I can say that I'm really not sure about that question because at first, well, actually, no, I can say. I will say at first, I thought that I wanted my concentration to be in professional writing, but after reconsidering, I have decided to change my concentration to teaching writing. So I feel like as somebody who may one day be, excuse me, teaching writing in a classroom setting, workshopping would definitely play a part in my professional career. You know, if I choose to, teach just regular essay writing, I have had experience as a writing tutor, so I know a little bit about workshopping and, reading over people's work and helping them correct certain areas or rewrite certain areas. But in a classroom setting, if I am teaching, English composition or perhaps creative writing, I can see a workshop playing into that situation, having that experience on how to effectively run a workshop and having certain guidelines that students follow when critiquing each other's work. All of this knowledge that I'm gaining by participating in workshops now will definitely come into play there. And I can see that being a part of my future professional writing career if I choose to continue on the track towards teaching writing in a classroom setting or in a setting where perhaps I'm a part of a writing group and you know there's a workshop there that would also come in handy. Oh, certificate option that interests me the most and why. As I previously stated in the last question, I was pretty much set on the professional writing option because I felt like that appealed to me more. I, at the time, I didn't feel like teaching writing was something that I really wanted to do. I felt like maybe focusing on the professional options for writing, such as blogging, copywriting, copy editing, things of that nature would be a better fit for me. But I've had time to think about it, and I feel like teaching writing actually now would be more of a secure option if I wanted to pursue a career outside of just like pursuing novel writing because it's not a guarantee that I will be published, and who knows how long it will take me to finish my novel. So having the option of teaching is a secure way to have a career and income. It's something that I have had some experience with. When I was an undergrad, I worked as a writing tutor for a couple of years at my institution that I went to school at. It was mostly working with students in the 5 paragraph essay, learning how to properly format, having your thesis, and developing topic sentences and mechanics, punctuation, grammar, things of that nature. But it was a rewarding experience, especially working with students who had to pass the test, the writing test that they have to take at the end of the year. 3 out of the 5 students I work with passed, so that was really gratifying for me, knowing that I helped them get to that point. And I feel like it would be really rewarding working with other students, helping them to improve their writing, to achieve their writing goals. I would definitely be interested in perhaps, teaching creative writing. Um, I would also be interested in teaching composition, you know. So I will say that teaching writing does have appeal to me, and that is the certificate option that I will be pursuing from this point forward. Um, as far as how the business courses will help me to advance my career and give me an edge in the writing community, I feel like they offer important information about the business side of writing. There's a lot that goes into um, getting your book published, other than just writing it. You need to know how to contact an agent. You need to know how to properly format a query letter and what information that the query letter should include. You need to know, you know, how self publishing works if you decide to go that route. You need to know how to negotiate contracts. And a lot of this are things that new writers, such as myself and others that are not experienced, are pretty much clueless about. I mean, knowing how to market yourself, how to create an author brand, a persona, social media presence, having an author platform. I feel like these are all things that the business courses will help me to learn about and know how to go about creating once I get to that point in my career where I'm ready to start promoting and start clearing agents to represent my work. So those will definitely be helpful and helping me to advance my career, as well as finding new and innovative ways to make myself known as a social media presence. I feel like that would give me an edge in the writing community. There are myriad ways that you can have that presence and interact with other writers and readers that will help you to stand out and give you this that public persona that you need to have nowadays when you're promoting your work. As far as what some of the professional options that are available to me as a writer, I feel like the main thing is that I want to be a published novelist, but if that takes a while, I wouldn't mind. being a book reviewer or a book blogger. I know that there are lots of opportunities to do that on YouTube. There are quite a few booktubers, I guess they're called, that I follow on there. And it seems like a pretty fun job to have. Also, just reviewing on personal website or websites like Goodreads or Amazon. Those are some of the professional options that I would be interested in. Um, they interest me because I guess they most align with what my own personal aspirations are. If I'm a young adult writer, of course, I want to be focused on young adult fiction. So, reviewing books that have recently been released or reviewing books by authors that I might know, that would definitely help with not only promoting their work and getting their work noticed, but you know, that's also a good way to network and just, like I mentioned earlier, become more immersed in the writing community as a whole. Um, when you are reviewing other people's work or you provide a blurb for their novel, they're more inclined to do the same for you. So, that's a good way of like returning a favor for an author and just, getting to know other writers and, you know, just being a part of the literary community and, enjoying new books and talking about them and being excited about them, connecting with other excited readers. I feel like that would be something that I would be really interested in pursuing as a professional career. But if that's not an option, like I mentioned earlier, definitely teaching writing is something that I'm looking into and that I'm actually kind of excited to explore as well. That's another way to become more involved in the writing community and interact with other writers and just getting the chance to mentor aspiring writers like I am now. Hopefully, by that point, I might be further along than just aspiring, but just getting the chance to help others and give back and, help those that are the next generation of writers once I make it to the point where I'm trying to get to.